So let me introduce my friend Yulia, who's I found you here on Substack, and I was reading your posts, and I'm like, well, she knows how we live here. I think people here need to hear, authentic commentary from life here. We're always talking about like the big headlines only, but the stuff that we see here, how we live, is kind of elusive to the West.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, sure. It's great thing. Nice. It's great thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a journalist, and I know you like documentary. Let's talk a little bit to introduce you to this other audience that comes from some of them are my Twitter friends, and um,
Hi there.
you've been a journalist for a while. You're not new at journalism. You've been at this for a while. What's your journalism background?
Okay. So like summarizing, I've been into it like for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've started working with Italian media, but just because I've been living in Italy like for 13 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, before uh, heading back to Ukraine in 2016. So it's almost 10 years that I'm back. Yeah. I was in here in 2014.
Mm.
Today's a big day. Maybe we can
Yeah.
circle back later. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I thought then like slowly I started like I worked for Italian media, and then with when Russia launched its full-fledged war in 2022, I like intensified different collaborations. So I'm like I stepped out from this Italian circle, and I like collaborated with different international media, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
So it's all and yeah, now I'm like looking toward documentaries, or like doing something as well in Netherlands is very bad experience, but we need to like document for future. So it's all.
Well, documenting is a big passion of mine, and when it's done by people who are really good at it, I think it's one of the most important things we do, not only for current understanding, but for recording our current life for future generations to look back and pick apart, what life was like for communities, for the country, and for individuals.
Yeah, because the testimonies, sure, nice.
What are some of the ones that you have it working that you want to get completed? What are some of the objectives on the table?
In terms of
Yeah,
document.
documentaries. Yeah.
Okay, this really particular story. And I'm kind of following this story for years, actually, no, for 3 years.
Hmm.
And I already anticipated something on Substack. It's a really simple story of Ukrainian teacher from Kharkiv. Kharkiv is a second Ukrainian city that sits on a border with Russia, as you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And her story is really impressive. And I'm like thinking about dedicating a podcast to this woman. Uh, she ended up in Russian occupation because once Russia launched its war, uh, she with her family moved to this small village in Kharkiv region because no one knew how it all would be if she ended up in occupation. So she couldn't teach her pupils. Then after 42 days, they were able to escape,
Hmm.
to flee to Kharkiv. But when she returned, she discovered that her class was already scattered all over the world, as Ukrainian
Mm.
cities, as you know.
Right.
Uh, some borderline cities switched to online learning, right?
Right.
But she was able, and I met her in Kharkiv in 2023 because she was like fighting being like a glue for her students
Mm.
who were around the world, around other Ukrainian cities. She impressed me, and I like started filming,
Hmm.
and we like went for the years. Like I was following her, and yeah, it's really simple story because it's a story of one person who fights for something really incredible, like giving teaching no matter what.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Oh, Svedlo Povornusu. Our lights just came back. Maybe your lights will come back here while we're talking.
I don't think
Bajayatste.
so. I don't think so.
I think I
I'm not.
just heard a beep. But
Yeah,
so I think you're onto something that years ago when I would watch certain stories, you have big cinema that tells very complicated, like special effects oriented, shows, and then you have some that get to you that are really a straightforward, simple story of human life. And there were a few that were like about teachers who could reach students who were vulnerable or a condition where the students were under pressure, and that teacher's like a boat from one part of their lives to another, and so
yeah.
telling that story about them is very important, especially
Thank you.
here.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see what I will able to complete, but yeah, the intention is there. So, what is your story about? As I understood, you're also making a dog.
I have a few actually. I'm gonna also welcome our guests. I'm telling them if they have questions, they can put them down in space and also say hello. So there's a few, but let me tell you about the one I messaged to you about, which was Um, the background is that I didn't come here as a documentary maker or a journalist. I came here as chief of research for terrorism firm, and then changed that in mid May 2022 and went back really to what I think I'm strongest at, which is news gathering and dissemination. And as you get through this, you just keep meeting new people, new situations. The first one was my best friend, who's really gone through a whole lot of struggle because of occupation, dividing the family, and also being from Kherson. But the next one was that in November 2022, I went to Maidan, or I was going through Maidan, and I was on someone's Twitter Spaces about Ukraine, and I saw that there was a Mariupol Defenders Family rally going on, and I did a very short video. What it was, maybe I think the video is 5 minutes long, barely, see enough, see enough, see, so it's like, okay, all for all. Okay, what's, you're holding a rally for this? Yeah, yeah, and I didn't speak any Ukrainian. You speak a little English? You do? Okay, can I get your number? And I had no idea what I would do with it except for at least try to keep up. So I get a message the next day that says, hey, we have a rally at St. Michael's on Saturday, I think it was. And could you come? So I messaged a friend of mine who's a journalist and a special forces Ukrainian. The Western journalist is American, and then a special forces Ukrainian brother, and said, "Hey, could you join me and maybe help me translate for this woman and her friends?" Sure, of course. So we show up and we don't know anybody. I mean, I know nobody in these groups. I don't know the stories of the POWs yet. I mean, it's in the news, very distant. And we just happened to have recorded these particular women at the very beginning of it, who were wives and moms of the 501 Battalion and 36 Marines. And then we stayed there and we kept recording for a few hours, even like there was a procession of other families who came and said, what they were going through with their families, and sort of like, that there's these like performances of struggle that they act out a bit of poetry and some expressions of like the grief, and I'm just recording all of it. I have no anchors in the stories yet, but as it kept going and the war kept evolving, and I became more involved in that story, um there were new people, but there was always the same ones I met from the beginning, and they were always the anchors of understanding. So
Yeah,
Anastasia Scoel is really at the center of that. And she was one of the many that, as other releases would happen, would not get news. And come last year, towards August, well, let me step in the middle. In June, Oleg Skripka, our great culture kabzar, our cultural hetman. Um, he says, I asked him, can we get a stage for Denis Zalisko, who had just returned from captivity, to sing with you guys? Like, I know you sing Oye Lucy Chervano Kalina, maybe he could join you. Oh, I'll be in America. Oh, but we'll get you a stage. Okay, so I went up with a stage for 1 hour and we had that. But I turned around and asked Anastasia and Violetta to stand on the stage with us with the flag of their husbands
Hmm.
and Artur and Vladislav. And still, again, I'm not thinking in terms of documentary. I'm thinking in terms of getting them home. The only thing I'm thinking is getting them home. Then comes August, and on the 10th of August, a Sunday, I walked up to her and I handed her a big package of Texas chocolate fudge I made. And I said, they're gonna, this won't last very long, so they have to come home soon. Okay? Okay. No, really. Okay. So, and we keep filming the rally. 4 days later, they were released. And to this day, it's just like, it's the most incredible emotions that I get when I think of these, not just all of the ones I know personally, but the ones I know ambiently through the rallies. So then the guys come home and, they get their new phones and they're wired back in as quickly as possible. And all of a sudden, and I saw this message the other day, all of a sudden, Artur gets a message that says, "Hey, I'm glad you're home. And man, I thought about you every day. And, I have friends that thought about you. And here's Daily Fella, one of the NAFO group things. It's a poster with you and your brother up there." And I love this message. He goes, "I'm sorry, who are you?" Like, oh yeah, so I know your wife and I know the sisters, and then he comes back, he goes, "Oh my God, I do know who you are. I heard about you." But he's relearning his whole life, all of it's evolving process. So for the next
And
few weeks we keep talking and texting, and it's like he sees all these photos that have been taken for the last 3 years, and he gets to learn not only the stories of what I was doing, but others. And then come to the end of the year, I talked to some people and I said, if I don't go to Lviv and record them hand in hand in front of the Christmas tree, I've wasted all of that footage. I need to show them at Christmas the way I found her in the snow. Now I find them reunited at the tree, hand in hand, both brothers, and I was just like, yes, got to do it, got to do it. So we did. I got out there. We were at the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve, and we went back and recorded the interview with both Anastasia and Artur for the first night. We had one day where we didn't, and then the second 2 days later we recorded Vladislav and Violetta. And the beauty of it is that I don't have a production team. There is no budget.
yeah,
So
thank you.
Anastasia is my assistant director and producer on one side, reading the questions with Artur, and then they role switch, and then he reads the questions to her, and we're just filming, and it's the most incredible stories of both the, the horrible side we know about, right, and that other side, that side where he's like, my wife is incredible. I mean, he was in awe of what she had accomplished while he was in captivity.
Yeah,
And vice versa, she's just glad to have her husband home. He learned to speak English in captivity. Because I'm walking by, I said, "Yeah, я вивчаю українську мову без вчителя." He goes, "Wow, молодець." She goes, "Yeah, when he first got here, he didn't really speak much Ukrainian, but now he does." And he goes, I learned English." Що це? Like, I was stunned. Як це? How is this? How did you in captivity? В полоні. Так. Як це? How is this? He goes, on shampoo bottle, we would see English and we would read it out loud and quietly write it down on toilet paper. We would hide it.
yeah.
And
It's
my
like,
job is
oh
to
my god,
document all that for everybody.
oh my gosh, this is like a really like a summary of human strength. It's like, you know, it's
Yeah.
impressive, really.
Well, I'm just in awe of them. What I use as the camera is to capture the people in front of me who just stun me on a regular basis. And it's everyone from like them to Anatoly Harhati, the videographer from Savinci, who was held in captivity for 100 days in Balaklia. And then when he was released, like several months later, they bring him here to Kyiv, and he's in a Zmina group. panel about torture of journalists. And he's so sweet. And he's like, he tells this story briefly. I recorded in the media center, but I talked to my partner, Alex Solomaka, who was on Netsic media team with me. And I said, let's don't interview him here. This isn't home. Maybe we go to Savinci and we interview there because yeah, like that's home, you know. And then let's not talk about torture victim. Let's find out who is Anatoly Harhati himself. Like who is he besides the fucking Russians? And so back to what you're saying about the teacher, that's really what makes it curious for you is to keep using that camera and the pen to go, who are you and why are you so interesting to me, right?
Yeah, and it's also, as you pointed out, I mean, it's I think sometimes like single individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then like became a quintessency of strength of
Mm-hmm.
Ukrainians, right? There's so much concentration in one human being
Mm-hmm.
so it's like it's really impressive how it works on camera, how it works in narrative terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will just give you an example of this little uh, episode
Yeah.
of this teacher life. Uh, just imagine that since 2022, the physical school, the building is closed. I mean,
Right,
maybe
right.
like open for some administrative staff or something, but it's closed for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she would go there. I don't know how often, but in this 4 years, I think she would go there quite often. Uh, when he would particularly like feeling sad and like disappointed, maybe like flustered inside, and she would go there. It was like her island of strength. She would go there.
Right.
She would stay in this empty class, right? And like remembering, right? Remembering the past years.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some this particular let's imagine it's like a particular cinematic frame.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she pointed out the window, and it was winter when we came there together. And she said, "Look, there's just grouse footprints on the snow. In normal times, there would be footprints of kids footprints,
Right,
but it's
right.
just like, and it was so impressive because it was like concentration of human sadness, pain, but meanwhile, in the same time, it's like amazing concentration of hope and strength. It's yes, it's impressive. Sorry, I like um I added too much to a concept, but yeah, sometimes
No,
it's
no, no.
wow, it's
That's
impressive.
perfect. And I know these people who are watching with us right now, this is what they want to this is what they want to know most. They don't want just the regular headlines of that's on BBC and Kyiv Post and Ukrainska Pravda. They want to hear from people. I know the folks that are here. I see some of these names. I've known them now for a couple of years. And they want to this is what they want to know about, you know. And they want to know about your version of it, not just that it happened. They want to hear what you feel about it, just so you know.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, we can also like and by the way, sorry, I'm just like particularly fixated with these teacher stories these days because I'm preparing podcast.
Yeah.
Today in the morning, we done some shootings.
Ah,
Because I was invited to this online class.
ah.
And yeah, so I'm like, I'm like post encounter, and I'm like quite quite agitated. My heart is quite agitated, but with good feelings.
Дуже багато емоцій.
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, it's really impressive. Look, everybody knows that Kiev now in this winter it was It was. It still is. It's hard because we like
Yeah.
the shortages of electricity, constant bombing, all this trial and tribulation we came through. And this PPPs managed like, oh, okay, when says blackouts, but blackouts today, yeah, at some point the electricity returned. But when I arrived, no electricity. But as she teaches online, she managed like, you know, uh, to connect router to this power station.
Hmm.
So it's like she has always Wi-Fi, so no interruptions to her lessons. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
impressive. This this little daily gestures of Ukrainians. Now we are talking about Kyiv. We are talking about people who live here. Like this little gesture to maintain the routines, right?
Right.
And yeah, I was thinking that before our meetings, that almost everything like around us keep working, like supermarkets or cafes,
Yeah.
bars, everything, movies. You
Yeah.
can plan like bowling.
Well, like in between the one we just did with Sean Penner, I went down to my Sharma stand, and the guy who's there asked me, "Hey, maybe you can film like that film you did." Which the maker, yeah, which is like a short, it's like a 5 minute or less video of Sharma maker from my old apartment, Drahmanova. And the reason why I did that one clip with my last friend over there was every night, despite drones and blackouts and attacks, and cold or winter and summer, this guy is always making sure that there's good hot food ready, no matter what. And I just was inspired. Plus, he's Uzbek, and I study Uzbek music, so we gotten along really well. And especially over in my old neighborhood, I was really close to everybody on that level because we just been through everything every day together, right? So I went out there and I said, "Hey, I was going to go film something else, but I took my camera and I just slowly panned it around as he was doing stuff." I said, "No, no, keep going," and I just kept doing stuff. And then I came back a little bit later. I said, "Hold on, I'm gonna do it from over your shoulder," and I just kept watching him make stuff. Here's another one. And then I thought I got home and I edited it and I go, I'm missing something. I don't have any footage of him giving the thing to somebody. So I go back the next day. Okay, we got to do it again. Make three. When you make three, I'll make it. Okay, so he makes three and it's fresh footage. And then I see him hand it off. I went, okay, now I got what I want. Okay, I'll be right back. And I go upstairs and I just quick edit it. It's a real quick, non-verbal, just making video, right? Well, I showed this guy this video about I don't know 2 weeks ago, and tonight when I went down there to just get some fruit, he goes, "Można знімати, реклама." Добре, як maker, yeah. Okay, у вас є Instagram or no WhatsApp? Можно завтра, can you do it tomorrow? Yeah, maybe, let's see. So, but that's what I want to do with the camera. The fact that he asked me to do that means more than anything. I wouldn't mind a nice charma for that for tomorrow, but we'll give it. I don't worry about that. But I like that he felt inspired to see that I just did as a thank you and gratitude for my other friend because I literally have a chapter I wrote in a book I may put out later called Sharmas, Sharmas, and Sharmas. And it's about these people who come here and they had this little part of their life living here feeding us every day, no matter what. But also it tells the people in the West, what did we go through here during the war? What was our life like when it was cold or the lights are out? And how do we get by? And you mentioned like grocery stores. When I go to Silpo, um, like now I have a Fora, I don't have a Silpo anymore, but my old Silpo, everyone knows me, and I know everyone in the store, and we all have shared common experience. Um, that is, when I moved, I was devastated. I had no idea how much it would affect me. I got over to this new place and I was like, oh man, I'm just so miserable. And people are like, why? It's a beautiful place. It's a nice view. And I go to see my adopted mom. My whole real family is gone. So I have, when I say moja mama, I mean my adopted Kherson family. And so mama's like, jak was, kvarter? I said, yeah, yeah. Jamal, like, why are you not happy? Like, I don't know anybody. I don't have that shared common experience with the people there. Oh, you will though. You're a nice guy. You'll know people. Like, no, mama, it's not the same. It's not like here. Like, there's the this person and that person and the kids and the dogs and the babusi and the shawarma maker and Silpo and then I'm over there like a new place and I don't know anybody. But everyone was right because in this new place, I have a cafe, I have fora, I have the people that are fist bumps, I have babusi downstairs, I have dogs, I have kids. Everything's kind of very similar experience being built here as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's like
yeah,
a new
yeah,
circle. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
yeah, you
And I like
restart.
to tell our friends what's happening here using film and photo. It's a big passion. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, a shared experience. By the way, another thing, right, is that we like can dig deeper. Is
Please,
it
yeah.
every city, like small town, city, village, or like, you know, uh, living through war,
Right.
it creates its own experience.
Yeah.
And some, this referrals, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, because, for example, uh, I just want to step back from main concept, from main thoughts. I was speaking with some colleagues covered other wars, some foreign colleagues,
Ah,
and we were speaking about this things that now Ukrainians have in common, but not just Ukrainians who lives here. This dark humor,
yeah, yeah, right.
Ukrainians like create memes from everything, like
Right, right.
from even from bad thing. And this colleague, he told me that in also in other wars he covered. It's like coping mechanism.
Hmm.
So circle back to my main thought line. Sorry,
It's okay.
sometimes I'm jumping. Uh, so yeah, for example, I was reading like some uh it was really like dark humor joke. Uh, it's the best McDonald's in the world. It's in Lukyanivka. Lukyanivka
Uh-huh.
is
Yeah,
an
yeah.
area in Kyiv because
Yeah.
it's like it has all this facade, like pounded by the small parts of drones, missiles, right? Because there's a lot of this uh, air defense things going,
Hmm.
and Russia bombs that area of Kyiv too much, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like people create this little islands of humor uh inside the most dramatic events. Or maybe if you remember uh nine the big between 9 to s- uh, s- certain of January when Russia like launched
Yeah,
air
yeah.
assault one.
Yeah,
uh
they almost hit
the,
my old building, so Mama was very upset that the building right next to ours, so if you took literally where our building was and you moved 30 feet this direction, that's where the drone hit at the exact same floor as our building on
uh,
January 9th. Yeah, and we had
uh,
they hit several missile strikes right here off to the side to hit Tets 5 where I live. Bad night, bad day.
yeah, yeah, it was really impressive because of constant bombing, because of this temperature tumbled, and water shortage. It was really, really like
Yeah,
it seemed like apocalypse is coming. And someone wrote
yeah,
on threads, okay, we have Russian missiles, we have -20, we have that just Godzilla missing, and this capacity to like write uh, this humorous little thing, to like lifting up, right? To like settle this uh, glimpses of hope for everyday life, and yeah,
exactly.
it's a point, and and when, for example, I stayed from September 2022 to August 2023 in Kharkiv. So I almost fixed that. Uh, yeah, Kharkiv has its own particularities, right? How it's going through war because
Right.
it's different. So every city and people like adapt, adjust, right? For some cities, I mean, I remember first bombings in like March 2022, and the level and adaptation of fear. And now, and I'm so I'm so heartbroken to say it, but we like it's sometimes it seems like we are adjusted to unadjustable. That's the point.
Do
What
you
do you
feel,
think?
let me ask you a question now, because I think you're tapping on something I know I feel. When nothing happens for a few days, it's a different feeling. Like you get so used to the bombings of the nights and the days. Then when you have 4 or 5 days where nothing happens and it's normal again, uh, you're wired that it's coming, but it doesn't. And then the next day, and it doesn't. And then the next day, and it doesn't. And then of course it's going to come, but you don't know how to have normal again.
Yeah. It's like I feel with like angst, anxiety,
Hmm.
like I'm constantly preparing, like charging my power banks, like storing water. Like I'm always like always
Yeah,
tense,
yeah, right.
like
I'm always
expecting.
putting water. I'm always putting
Yeah,
water and things in jars again.
yeah. My grandmother, who went through the Second World, uh, she was always storing like food. It's like her generation thing, and I think not just my generation, but my
Yeah,
like all us, we will like always keep power banks charged. The
yeah.
same, because it's like it is going in automation. It's like on
And
repeat.
you gotta have you have to have your little lamp with you. Make sure it's charged. Make sure it's ready. Make sure you
Yeah,
can find it. On mine,
yeah,
it's always in my side pocket of my pants, so that I have a special pocket just for the flashlight.
yeah.
Everything's sort of wired, and if there was no war, I would still be doing that for a long period of time before people go, "What are you doing, man?" Preparing for what?
Yeah. For the war,
For the war. Yeah.
it's the point. And some things that you're not good at. Yeah. For example, me, I'm always forget to withdraw cash.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
To have some cash with me because even if Ukraine manage very well with bank system, it's perfectly. But sometimes after an hour after like a huge massive attack, we have this something like this payments with card
That's
down,
true.
so it's better to have cash. But I always forget.
I remember it being in Kherson, where elders were gathered around a bank terminal, and there was about 12, 15 of them all standing in line. And, the town was very quiet. It was before the human safari era that we know about
Yeah,
now very well. But it was still bad. This was in January 2023, so only 2 months after occupation. And yeah, just watching that becomes, especially as an American, it makes my blood boil, makes me very angry to see that people have been pushed into that situation where there's a temporary opening. And for our viewers, let me explain. There's just a temporary opening where there's going to be able to get money. People are able to get money, and then the machine is out again. So that's why they all come at that time, is because they have to do it at that time or it's not going to happen. Which means when they go to the little stand to buy ovochi, to buy vegetables or certain, things that they have to get, if they show up and the person's like, no, groshi, only cash, please, oh, okay, and then they fish around and they have to do it. If you don't have that, you go without.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's like it's like really strange to wrapping up all this experience because a lot of things that we are living through, they seem normal to us, right? But when I hear from someone who live abroad, uh, I can I can sometimes I can see a lot of not understanding, but it's so extreme, and it's like it's like a cold shower sometimes, not for the people because I mean not for the people, but for me is that I tell something so normal. This is normal. See, when there was this episode, I texted with a friend of mine from Italy, and she asked me, and I was like, almost robotic. Like, yeah, we went through the attack, then I did it, then I'm going to do this, and she was like, Yulia, gosh, you like mixed an attack with some absolutely normal things. Come, yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's
yeah,
something. It's really, it's, it's like it hits me like a brick.
yeah. Дуже важко. Я знаю.
Yeah.
Zrozumilо, I get it. Let me share with our friends. First off, thank you. I see some good friends showing up, people who are coming to hear what we're saying, and I like to impart language. So when you understand what I'm saying, you'll appreciate. Zrozumilo. I get it. That's what that means.
Yeah.
That means I get it, you know. It's Rosamilo. You do get it, you know. So the other дуже важко, very difficult. Дуже важко. So these are things you'll hear me say a lot when and forgive me to my friends, I switch to Ukrainian often. I think I think in both languages now in many cases. But I'll share one that's a positive story. I'll tell you two funny stories that are, or one that's funny story and one that's positive. So I was in Antonivka delivering some aid with my great friends from Boryspil. If I ever put this book out, there's a chapter called The Boryspil Boys, and it's an evangelical church out there that my friend Andriy heard about through one of our friends. And for those who don't know, evangelical community is not big here. It's an Orthodox, country. So when you get to know people in these other churches, it's interesting. We go traveling down through Kherson Oblast and delivering aid, and they called me up and said, "Hey, Anton says, we have a journey and a trip. We know you would go with us. Maybe would you go to Antonivka?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." Yeah, we knew you would, but let me explain why I'm asking because it had been a couple months where they hadn't been asking. And for me, it's fine because less me in the van means more supplies. You know, you've already had the camera guy a few times, the journalist guy and everything, but my job essentially is to maybe help some boxes, but it's really to come tell the stories. And after a while, when you've done it enough, you want to go ahead and start putting supplies back in that van instead of me. But he says, no, 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 but Volodya is like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he won't go with us anymore. Why? Well, because the last time when we were there, it was really difficult shelling, and we figured you would probably go. Well, yeah, of course. Of course. Звичайно, bro, So, so we go, and when we got there, we get out and we're delivering the aid and I'm filming everyone doing the aid and I go, hey Dennis, Hutchins сказати, yeah, yeah. So we film like the main guy is going to film about what we're doing and why the aid from the West is so important and thank you to everyone who helped, that type of thing. And we get done and we're all standing around and this one young guy who's a great, awesome friend of mine down there, Dima, he says, oh, she wants to know if you're afraid. Me? Yeah. And she meant the shells that were popping above us and across, because we're we're about zero point 0.3 kilometers away from the river, and we're being where there's artillery or shells coming across of different kinds, artillery and other coming across from Oleshki, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um and I'm not flinching or anything, so that's why he's saying she's wanting to know if you're afraid. I go, me? Yeah, no, I mean about this. No, 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 no. I'm more worried that Valentina is really upset. She won't let me pick up her box. It's like an 80-year-old woman who, when I went to help, no, 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 I got it. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm just trying to help. And everyone busted out laughing that they understood that the dignity of some people and the elders, like, I've got it. It's okay. I'm like, okay. So the fact that I'm not afraid of the shelling on one side, but I'm like, don't want to upset the lady over here. it becomes like a normal life for me. And some of the listeners here or viewers we have here that listen from Twitter know that my mama is so important to me. And the second version of that is how same thing. They have heard me on the air live when booms are happening, when missiles are attacking and drones are directly flying over. They can hear those engines fly over when I'm live, and it's audio. So right now we have video finally, but on there on Twitter it was just audio. And everyone would always ask, and they'll tell you right here in the space they were there. Are you going in the shelter? What the fuck am I gonna see in the shelter? My job is to like be in the perch and make notes. And so again, the question is, what are you afraid of? And my co-host says, Mama. Why? But Mama's so sweet. Oh no, Mama is sweet. Mama's the best. She's the best. She really is. But one time I go in the kitchen. I'm on the phone with my co-host and off the show, but I was like, hey, what's it? Oh, what? She's a wolf. She's a wolf. Uh, I forgot to put the chair back under the table after I ate. And she holds her fist up at me like, she's a wolf. You forgot. Vibashte, Mama. So she goes off in her room. I put the chair back and I go back in the room. And he starts going back about the weapons reports we were working on. And 10 minutes go by and I haven't said anything. He goes, you okay? She raised her fist at me. I was still stuck 15 minutes before that Mama had been upset about the chair. And I never forget to put the fucking chair back under the table ever again. I'll be seeing her this weekend and I never forget this. And I think that's something I see very common here. And it might be a completely different story with other people, but the difficulty of the war becomes normal and the little things become like really big deal in some capacity.
Yeah. It's like a different kind of. I would dissect this in this way because these little things like normal, things that require uh, that would require normal human approach interaction, right?
Right.
Someone makes you like leave it with anger, like something happens, like maybe I don't know, something happens normal, but
Right.
what is like kind of surroundings, right?
Right. Right.
I don't know if you already told to your listeners that Ukrainians use this Telegram monitoring channels,
Yeah. Yeah.
to see what is coming, what kind of bomb is coming, what kind of missile, like drones, directions, whatever. And for example, in cities like Kharkiv, okay, I read others start wailing. People check their phones. You might hear like a huge attack in the like near neighborhood, but in your area, life like goes normal because you like can see that drones took that particular direction and
Mm.
none in your
Yeah.
like in your area. So yeah, as you said. This is normalcy, let's call it
Yeah.
normalcy of
Right. The new
war.
normal. Right. Right.
Yeah, new normal. It's like it's like new normal. Yeah, it's like new normal. It seems sometimes I have this strange feeling that the life before 2022, like there's like a huge dark hole, nothing,
Yeah.
no more emotional connection, no like vivid memory, and sometimes uh it's like it's really strange feelings. It's like I would exist just after 2022 because, of course, it's church emotional. I think I'm afraid of thinking what is at some degree what would come in like in terms of psychological impact.
Mm-hmm.
After because
Sure.
yeah. But anyway, returning to the new normal. And this episode just for finish this picture.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
one of my last like visits to Kharkiv. I was working for this big journalistic material, and I had some time, some free time, and I went to this outlet, a simple store with clothes,
Hmm.
and of course, as all people in Kharkiv, you need to check in your monitor channels like all the time, because rate alert is like a constant, so you better check it. And I was like, looking for something like there was a this things I was like putting on just for with intent to buy it.
Hmm.
And I remember like someone was screamed "Bukritya,"
Mm.
shelters, and I put out my phone and I realized that avia bomb was like hidden in direction of the city center. So yeah, luckily there was a metro underground, like a station, like right behind the like corner.
Hmm.
But I was like, I was running with one, one shoes on and one in my hand.
Right. Right.
This is a strange situation. But yeah, in Kharkiv and like it's on, like frontline and border cities, you better check because air bombs like they're so fast, and uh being so near to the border, Lasha launched them like from the border,
Yeah.
literally. And the moment of arrival, it's like it's so short. So you better be really, really aware, and like, and it was this moment me running with one shoes on, another
Right.
one in my hand. So yeah, but it's a reality of war. So.
Exactly. In Kharkiv in October, I was there for a few weeks to film with Khartia, and great teams
Great.
doing great work, and we were really near as close to the Russian border as I've ever been. Uh, so right behind that, I can't say what the team is, Helen. There's a not war team doing some work in Kharkiv, in Saltivka, and after I had just met some new people that I was really like honored to meet, and I was documenting what they were doing. I get back that night, and I get a message from one of the people on the team. They almost got us. What? And then I get the video of her crying, and she's in shock because the cab had just cab missiles had been coming in, and bombs had been hitting right there. And she goes, no, but look, and it's one that you can literally see hit right outside the like metro type terminal they were in. And there's a kid that's going, yeah, he's just having a good time. And then all of a sudden he goes, oh, and he can feel it's coming before because he can hear the whistling sound. And he jumps, and the blast is through, and it's on her phone. It's not from Telegram. It's not from the internet. It's from her fucking phone. And I see her in shock, and she's traumatized. And it's like, that's a whole nother fucking thing, you know? To have my friend that fucking close that I was with only 2 hours before. And I was actually at that location 3 hours before, you know? And everyone knows when later when the what the story of this project is, because it'll eventually be known to the world. Um, they understood that this was a possibility, but then when it happens, and there were not casualties in the sense of deaths or severe injuries, but they were, still injured, and traumatized from the actual event. But I won't forget the sound of her voice, and she's very much like one of these young people who's corralling the work, and she's helping. She's like a young leader, if you will, in this role. And first thing I thought about is if I know her well enough, a couple of days of meeting, she's feeling responsible for everyone in that, and she's feeling like thank God they're okay, but there's just something more intense for her because she feels like responsible for the people there. And that's the reality. And it was like instant. There was no warning. It's just, especially with CAD missiles, there's not like what we get here where there's a little bit of a heads up. You got a little bit of a head
Yeah,
nod.
yeah, 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 yeah. You're right. Um, yeah, and the difference between living living on like proximity to
Yeah.
border and front line. My mom, she actually lives in Zaporizhzhia, a southern city.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she told, okay, it's well known things, but like we can grab this information from headlines. But I would tell you, uh, my mom, it's the city is under constant assault of drones, and now the smallest drones like FPV, they start like uh, arrive in certain areas, and is it that type of drones that Russia uses in Kherson for conducting human safari, right?
Right.
So I was saying that sure, that heads up time, that like a warning, the warning time is really different now. Here in Kiev, we have like this wiggle room with bad news, right? We have the small windows that we can
Right.
at least go to shelter. I think I too often go to the shelter because I
No.
lately yeah
I've gone for this reason. And not in my neighborhood either in Dramanova or I'm in Poznaki, Osukoki area, but in the city, I've gone to specifically two places that were shelters, also in Lviv in the first 3 months, so I
yeah.
could see how people were and just like, how are you? Same reason, like stabilization points. I go in, hey, як наші люди, oh, come here, як вас звати? Oksana, мене звати Christopher, я живу тут, я journalist. And I don't ask to be journalist this month. I just give hug, sit down, just want to see how you are. And then the DSNS volunteers and the police that are there sometimes, you want coffee? No, 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 no. I just want to see how our friends are doing, how our people are doing, and if they need anything from me, I'm here and we're all here together. And then, actually, it goes a long way. There's times where I go back and they're like, oh, hey, how are you? And I always try to remember names. I'm pretty good with trying to remember names. Um, but just that bonding, just to reach in kind of in the
Oh
middle of that
yeah.
pain and say, "Ваше кате, дуже холодно." Дуже холодно. And I'll ask like, do you have some heating? No, 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 no. And you're like, okay. Do you have the things you need otherwise? Yeah, yeah. I mean, basically, okay, well, I'll check on you again, and I do. I constantly dip my head into the tent and I go, just, hey, how's everything going? Можно, yeah, and actually, last week on Substack, I said, do you mind if I just film here just to say, like, I'm here? And, I have accreditation, so they take the little photo, like, okay, let me send this to my command. Okay, okay, go ahead. But when I'm done, when they hear that they put in Huilo, Pizdets Rossiyska Federации, and I sign off, the guys who are the guards are like, hey, come on back, bro, like anytime, man. And for my job is to bring that energy in, to bring that, like, the guy who's on fire for Ukraine. And I literally, especially in my old neighborhood, I had this name, Tilki's Futbolka, only T-shirt. And it's just kind of like we said about new normal. It's part of, like, I don't think of it as cheerleading, but it is a little bit that, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, is spirit uplifting. Like the old guys, how in some of these buildings, there's the old guys who just clean the building, right? They don't say much. They're older. It's a little pension money, and they just clean and hey, привіт, 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 слава Україні, oh, героям слава, і пиздець Російської Федерації, oh. So when I
Oh
walked
boy.
out after a
Yeah.
while, like, I'd never heard the word привіт again. I heard Slava Ukraini. Oh, Heroim Slava, и пиздец Російської Федерації. or Smezorham, something really, really loud, and they just like they perk up to attention. I even had one guy, he'll do like this. He's like probably 65, and he just snaps to attention with me. But I'm like, come here, like, just give me a hug. It's Alexander, tak, my pocomo razum. So, but if that's what brings up the energy for that moment, and Tilki Futbolka came because I would walk to the cafe at 0 degrees with just my t-shirt. And Babusi, for all of our viewers, if you don't know this, and I see Andrei Burko, my best buddy, is here. He knows this. He's the Asper brother.
Hi, everybody.
Uh, so
Thank you, Lisa.
you cannot walk around with just a t-shirt, and you cannot walk around with your shoelaces untied without getting harassed. What's wrong with you? Your shoelaces are untied. You will die. That's very crazy. So I'm going out one day, and there's three Babusi at the base of the building sitting outside, and холодно. Ні. Я думаю про ракету Сітрунськ кожен день, так? Так. Як вас звати? Мені. Usually I'd say Christopher, but тільки футболка. Що? Він божевільний. He's crazy. But it's funny. It develops a loving bond. They love me as much as I love them. Just this kind of like he's one of ours now. Yeah, yeah. And if that's what it takes, then it's not loving Ukrainians for me is not hard at all. Even the
Thank you.
difficult ones.
Thank you.
Oh, it's easy. That's the easy part is the loving Ukrainians. I actually, if I'm ever stressed, it's always about Americans.
Oh, we can
I'm
go.
sorry to all of our American friends. My friends understand this. My mama, she came in one day. She was very angry. She says, "What were you talking about last?" Now, first off, Mama does not speak anything but Ukrainian to me. She does not speak English. What were you talking about last night? What were you talking about last night? It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're talking at the window. You're talking really loud, and I'm sorry. What were you talking about? Я сказав про допомогу. Я дуже злий через американців про допомогу. Oh, зрозуміло. She goes back to her room. I was upset with the Americans over the aid and the lack of aid, and she goes, okay. She goes back to her room because at least that's something to be upset about.
Aw.
And she knows what her kid does. I'm this many. I always tell you this is my age because I've been here for 4 years. This is my actual age now. I was reborn in this life 4 years ago, and Mama
Turbo
raised me.
Ukrainization.
So she really became a contrast because she was in occupation in Kherson all through occupation, and my best friend her husband his father Edward's father died on February 19th, and her birthday is the 24th, and so it's it's a lot to carry to think about what the suffering they went through when they came and lived with us. I remember very well those first few weeks when they came to live with us here in Kyiv. And eventually it was my best friend had moved to America, that's the apartment we lived in. He had to go to America because of the other part of the family. And so it was just his friend, Mama, and I. So Edward, his mom, and me for 3 years. And like we were three adults living in three kids' rooms. So I'm in the oldest soccer kid's room. Edward's in the second oldest son's room, and Mama's in the daughter's room. And we are three people that don't belong in that house who are a new family. And there's all these interactive stories of life. Like I have an organic experience that you don't get as a Westerner living in Maidan or living near St. Sophia, in the what I think of as the expat circles. I don't have that life. I literally only live with Ukrainians, and I am only around Ukrainians, and I don't actually know how to relate to the Westerners as much as I used to. I'm like a hybrid guy that is like triggered by even sometimes talking to, like the Western guys who come and go, where my temperament I had to check. And this is something you said earlier I wanted to address real quick because you were talking about the real term for it is PTSD, actually, by the way, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, is that I have to figure out why my tension is so high after getting out of certain conversations. And it's because, like, I know the person I just talked to, even if they mean well, they do not understand what we're going through. And I have to forgive their words because the words are accidentally offensive or accidentally injurious. And so I just have had to learn a new space of mindfulness. And actually, a lot of people who are in here, they helped a lot of that because I know they're genuine. When they talk about how something struggles, I go, okay, if I was in America and I couldn't reach people over there, how would I be feeling during this? Yeah, I would probably feel like that too. So let me be more forgiving when they say these things that I totally don't relate to anymore, because I know from their angle they're definitely trying. And so
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And in most of the cases, I would just exclude like bad intentions. It's something that they just simply can't. They We can't relate. We human beings can't relate to experience that we didn't went through, right?
right, right,
And okay, except some particular cases, because sometimes people really misbehave and approach with this really certain arrogance and this patronizing
right.
ideas. Okay, but let's put aside this conversation. But generally speaking, I always said it in one of my podcasts about my friend Vala, and generally that people here. It was like I go to a institution during the war, and it started with some particular conversation I had with my friend of mine. Um, she was asking, she lives abroad. I mean, she's actually from Italy, and she generally, I told her, look, yeah, I'm doing this, that, and then I'm going to a esthetician or something like that. And she generally asked me, are you going to a esthetician during war? But I understand the intent behind, because
Right.
some, I don't know if this is the right word to say, uh, cognitive, because cognitive lack, because just simply we
Mhm.
she hadn't that type of experience, right? So I'm not going mad or something.
Mhm.
My madness it manifests in some different situation, like political talks. You know what
Right,
I'm
right,
talking
right,
about.
right.
But we are not into this tonight. But yeah, but just simply because it's we can't really. I mean, I'm broken record this evening. We can't relate to something that we we didn't go through, right?
Right.
It's like some particular type of illness or experiences or even
Yeah.
depression, right? Uh of course, living through war is like some kind of extreme. It's like when you put so like on the edge, when you need constantly put yourself in discussion, how
Mhm.
you can how much can we hold on our shoulders this weight of suffering, of grief, of everybody says about Ukrainian resistance, but this resistance has high its highest price, right? Because
Right.
it costs us so much psychologically, in terms of a social configuration of this country, because how many 6 million left, and maybe more. Okay, there's some flowings back and forth, but still it's a lot of people, right? A
Mhm.
lot of people left frontline cities, towns, villages. So is it never return? Because you know war is still in its active phase, and the reconstruction at times time passes, it's like life goes on.
Mhm.
So then a lot of grief, a lot of uncertainty. What about future? Uh, by the way, and other things that we don't think. I think it's like you can relate this here completely. We, at least me, I don't make big plans in terms of 5 years or 3 years or year. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I go through 6 months, then we will see.
Yeah.
Because then let's answer like economical situation. All this like financial impact, because I mean, living through war, it's so much. So, okay, it was a little degradation. I've started from resistance. So this resistance has a price, a big price. So we need to acknowledge. And mm, for finish, this is why I'm so. For now, everything might change the next month, but for now, when I go abroad, for me it's a kind of challenge,
Mm.
psychological challenge. Not because I mean I didn't have some bad experience or mistreatments or bullying, nothing like that. Absolutely. Instead, I was always like oh graduate and met very well. But still, I feel like I don't belong there. But
Mm.
because of
Mhm.
not shared experience, that's what I'm trying to say. Because I feel like better here because everybody here can understand me.
That's right.
And when I go to my parents or like different conferences, like something like that, I need to explain. And I realized that times I wasn't prepared. I wasn't psychologically prepared.
Right.
I'm more like, I feel more psychologically safe here. It's
Right.
strange.
Right.
It's strange to say because like living through war, but I mean, was I able to explain? Like, it's complicated. Sorry, guys. Um,
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Let me give you a funny story before this war for me. When I was at the grocery store, one day I had an experience and I wrote to my friend and I said, that thing you said would happen happened today. Now, the context of this is that I was a terrorism researcher who had to watch ISIS videos all the time and log all the material. And I all I wrote to him was, and he's an actual soldier. I'm not a soldier. So he's a soldier who had served in both Afghanistan and Iraq. And I said, so that thing you said would happened today. He goes, was it eggs or bread? It was eggs. How'd you know? He goes, it's usually like something like eggs. What he meant was the standing there and trying to make a decision, and especially in America, like with a wall full of eggs, and you just stop and you stare at it. Because in my head, I'm still doing my job. I'm still stuck at the computer with the crap I'd seen all morning. And it's
Ah,
just like, what am I choosing? Fuck, I don't know. And then you just stall eggs, and you put it in the basket. And what he said about bread is the same way. You walk up and there's like all these choices of what to get for bread, and you're like, oh yeah, fucking bread, okay, because you're still stuck in your work. And he said that's a form of PTSD to consider. And what he was saying was, and I'm sure it's far more complicated for him at that, especially at that point, is he says he came back to America and everything was so fucking mundane that it was obnoxious, and the things that were happening in front of him made him angry because of how stupid certain shit was. That everyone else was just kind of going through routine, and him, it was like, what the fuck about this is routine? But it actually is routine. It's just that his routine was so radically different. And so
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying is like what we have is that we have ways we do things that if I go somewhere else, it's going to be, why'd you do that? And they'd be like, what? This is what we do. And my brain would have to go, of course it's what you do. I'm the one that's different now. You're in normal land where none of this happened. If I hear about the electrical grid falling apart in Texas, I'm like, yeah, but was it because of a fucking drone? Was it because of a Iskander? No, it's because of a shitty fucking governor who just doesn't give a fuck about repairing the fucking aging electrical system. That's why. It's not because someone hit the fucking thing. Did anyone see a missile hit the power facility? No, but I look out my window and I can see it happen on Tets 5. I live right near the river. So I literally see them hit it repeatedly. October 10th, they hit it last week. They'll hit it again. And it doesn't even work now. It barely works, and they hit it again. But no one in Texas sees this when the electrical system goes down. And so I cannot change that juxtaposition. It is inevitable that for the rest of my life, that's how I will see things. And I just have to learn how to be kind with people who are worth being kind to, and measured when it's everyone else. I have to be measured with them because I try to be strategic with it, if it's someone who doesn't pay attention, you know. And
Mm.
see our friends, they're like giving you all this love. Look at all
Oh,
these people. Yeah. And everyone, by the way, you better be following this account because come on.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for your kind words.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you, Lisa. Thank you all.
Here's one that where I use what I call the weight of the war to put someone in their place in America. A stupid drama amongst stupid people wound up in too many phone calls 3 years ago, and I understood I had to help diffuse a conflict, and I had the ability to help. So I get on the phone with one of them that was at the middle of it, and I said, "Do you understand how you guys sound to me? Like you're fighting about stupid shit. What the why? Do you understand how that sounds to me? Oh, I know you've seen a lot. I saw your pictures. You saw my pictures. What are you talking about? Oh, like you were in front of the destroyed building." And my brain goes, "Which one?" And I go, what are you talking about? The one, and she meant in Dnipro, that made international news on July 14th, 2023.
Yeah.
I said, oh yeah, yeah, okay. So yeah. And I immediately go to sympathy mode, and I was, okay, thank you for paying attention. She goes, yeah, I mean, and your photos carry a lot of, the experience in there. I said, they do. Yeah. So you could hear the woman screaming in between the floors. And I just laid into her with the experience. Like I threw the entire weight of the fucking experience on her ears, and she broke apart crying on the phone. She did not think about that part. She did have a relationship to the photo that was correct of its trauma, but she lacked all of the nuance that you and I know happens by being in front of this event. Because I've been to many of them here. Just last year, 15 at least strikes that I stood in front of, where literally rescue operations are happening, and I'm holding someone I don't even know. Lean, no, no, Lena gets me. It's fine. I got all day with you. Come here. uh and then I get home and I have to do a normal report and talk to normal people about abnormal things, and this person says, I remember the photos, something, and all I could do was take the power and the weight of that pain and just throw it on her at 1,000 pounds of anger. Did you hear her scream? No. And by the time I was done, she was corrected, and she thanked me about 4 months later. She goes, I will never forget how you put me in my place that day. I said, well, I'm sorry. No, don't be sorry, please. I go, well, but I told her it is a little unfair because you're not trying to be difficult. Now, it'd be one thing if you were one of these people who lies about Ukraine. She isn't. There's a huge gap between this photo she saw and the actual experience that I was about to check her with. So then she went and solved that other drama problem with a whole lot better experience of going, whatever you do, don't have that stupid drama problem with Chris on the phone.
Something that pop up in my mind following your stories. Sometimes when I'm like stuck in some situation, because we still like live through
Right.
normal things, like some with neighbors or something like that. By the way, I have beef with some small groceries here.
Yeah.
But this is a normal thing. And sometimes, like, maybe like I'm start spiraling, overthinking, and then I'm like stop myself. I say, "Oh, come on, you can die tonight." I mean, literally,
Right.
come on, it's not that important. And really, um, like I'm looking back at myself, like in 2021 or 2020 no, because my father passed because of COVID complications. It was really a tragic year for my family. But like I'm looking back, and I was stressing about these things. It's like actually had no importance, no like meaning, no value. And I could say that I think it's something is like speaking about a inner discipline, like looking at things with more this war lived or like c- catastrophe lived experience. It's like it helped me like discipline where my thoughts, where my focus like goes.
Right.
It's not like yeah. Sometimes like we like losing ourselves, but okay, we're humans. Like if we have some difficult conversation with someone or like a conflict with a colleague, we're like detached from war, this background for war background, we're like into this daily situation, right? It happens with humans. It happens all the time. But sometimes, yeah, it's about focus, like what we see, uh, the footprint it leaves on us. And I mean, we like surrounded by so much suffering. And yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And again, I think that part of my task is to step back and objectively look at it. And I spend a lot of time at the either the computer or literally at the writing pad. And I think, okay, you're telling the story still very outside of yourself. What are you missing? And I'll take the same story and I'll step back layers and like what I think of as orders of magnitude, like how you come in and go, okay, here's me at the building. Here's me at the community block level. Here's me in the city level, in the nation level. Okay, but that's still not it. What was the flavor of that moment? What was what else am I missing? And I did an exercise of this back it was about 2, 3 months ago, maybe December. I I know that ChatGPT had audio version where it talks to you. So I said, hey, I turned it on. I said, can you interview me? Sure, I can interview you. What would you like to talk about? Okay. I want you to ask me about what photos don't, and I was thinking about that conversation I just told you about. What photos don't say that I experienced. Okay, that's a good question. So, and then I had to give it some parameters to think about.
That's amazing.
Because I needed it to interview me to pull out the flavors that are not coming out of me naturally, that I have to literally provoke out of it, because I feel that that's part of the job also, is to not just be this objective, almost scientist like person watching it from so close and then losing it. Because if I don't, then when I die and there's notebooks and people go through it and they go, he took the time to notice the texture of the sidewalk or the how walking felt that day. Little nuances that I go, you're still not doing it. You got to try harder. Try harder with another way of describing that experience. Okay. So I actually will say, what's the word in Ukrainian for experience? That's the language practice for the day. Every little layer that makes it breathe more life into it, so when I finally die, someone else can take that material and do something with it. Or even in real time when I'm not dead yet, because by the way, to my enemies like Russia, go fuck yourself. We're still breathing. Um, I wake up out of spite sometimes. I wake up and I go, I have bad news for the enemies. Yeah, still here, still ready. Write that one down. What is it like to wake up and know that the one thing motivating you is that you're alive and your enemies are still breathing? Okay, there's tomorrow's note, etc., 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 just to keep finding the parts that matter. Ah, Slumbo.
It's back. Sorry.
Nareshti.
It's back. It's back.
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but yes, like
No, it's perfect.
it's lived
We all have to do
experience,
that.
and it's here. You can see it. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry for my quite messy today, but yeah, it's here.
That's the beautiful part. Yeah.
Yeah. That sound like and
Yeah.
everything like once I forgot it that completely slipped my mind. I it was around it was like early evening, and the lights were on, and then like blackout, everything like went off, and then okay, I went to like when time came, I went to bed, and I forgot that the switches were on. In the
Right,
middle of
right,
the
right.
night, like everything was lit.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, I hate woke up like in the middle of the night. By the way, oh, yeah. So you need to control your switches so in the, during the
You had to
night it
make
not
sure your
disturb you.
stove is off. You had to turn the stove all the way off always. I
Yeah,
had one happen about 2 weeks ago when because the water turns off because of the attack sometimes. And I did something like I went to the local store or something, and I came back up and my so I have a divided bathroom. I have a part that's like shower and all that, and then I have a toilet bathroom and stuff. So I walked in and I was like, "What is that sound?" Oh shit! The water it had been on full blast because I had left it on so I would know when the water had returned. And so that meant at least I don't know how long I've been gone, but thank God I keep everything perfectly clean. So it all flowed through. But I was about to have to call the landlord, go, hey, Vladimir, I'm so sorry. I have a little bit of a flood because I went to the store and I came back and the water had returned. But routines that you have to
yeah,
learn
yeah,
that
yeah.
normal people never would have to go through, but we have to remember.
Yeah, yeah. It's like constant checking on everything.
Yes, making sure
Yeah,
that you have it all planned.
yeah. What about cooking? Like usually cooking advance, like some food
Oh,
storage
yeah.
or
So,
something.
so my balcony is my largest refrigerator because I unplugged the refrigerator to save electricity. It's never on anyway. And I found I've learned the distance between the window and a stand I use. It's basically a tripod that I hold the salad and egg material. So I put eggs inside of a bag. But if it's too close, they'll freeze. If it's too far away, then it's fine because it's cold. But like literally using the balcony as a refrigeration unit. um, so I learned from Mama. Actually, I got this down because we're not new to blackouts. We've had 3 years of blackouts. And
Yes.
I would always know when Mama was always aware of the schedule, and she would do, borscht preparation and everything would be perfect. So up, power goes out, no problem, everything's done. And it really dictates the schedule. So same thing here. I even have some friends who are in the space here, and they would say, they can tell you that they would literally be in a conversation with me. Oh, hold on, I have to cook eggs. I'm not even hungry, but if I don't cook them now, they won't be ready. And I had a week ago, we had lights. They had just come on, and I went, okay. And I throw all the eggs on the skillet, and then the lights went out, and it wasn't even finished. I was like, well, okay. So I put a thing on the top, and I said, well, it'll just have to be okay. And actually, it came back on 2 hours later for 20 minutes. I got him finished, put him a thing, power went out again, and you just get wired to be ready for that. Here's the one that matters to me is drone attacks because I live on left bank. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know how many times I've spent at Vidibuchi. And I like to film at Dovzhenko Center. My friend runs Cora over there, Dimo Ratsevsky, Rads. And so we're filming over with the best musicians in Ukraine and best musicians in Kyiv, like Albert Sukrinko and Nazar Stets and these just amazing, the top 0.1% musicians all hang out at Dovzhenko Center. But I'm looking at my watch, go, hey Dima, yeah, I've got to go now, man. Why? Because the map is turning red, and I'll be at Vidivici all night if I don't go now. Oh, I understand. And I get right there, I'm like, okay, no, because like fuck, I'm in the fucking metro for 4 fucking hours. Blats, and like I'm trying to outrun just the timing, and that means I missed 20 minutes of a presentation because I have to get across the river before you can't get across the river, or you have to pay cab, and I don't like to throw money around a cab. So your life is just dictated by these dances and these games with war.
Yeah, I didn't do this. I don't know. Like, I noticed that this winter, but not just me. Okay, we stick to electricity schedule, right?
Yeah.
Okay, dishwasher, and like we need to wash clothes and cooking, and then they are charging phones and all that. Like, yeah, it's like it's new. It's a new normal.
Yeah. I had the same thing with the clothes washing because especially with these latest attacks, remember, we didn't have much of a schedule. They just literally said you might get it, you
Yeah,
might
yeah, it
not.
was like emergency blackout. So
Yeah.
you don't know how
Yeah.
when it goes on, and
Yeah.
yeah, and so on.
And so I had put clothes in and then it stops. And the problem is that when it starts up again, it'll actually start fresh again. It doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know where it's at in the cycle. So I had to start outsmarting it, going, okay, well, I'm going to get it through part of the cycle, and then I'm going to quickly turn it to the spin cycle because I just want them out of there before it stops. And I literally beat it by about 30 seconds last week, where literally as I finished, it goes, it's done. And I said, bet I got it though. And I pulled
Yeah,
everything out, and I just got
it's
to go
like,
get the
yeah,
sun. And like, fuck you, Russia. Fuck the fucking enemies.
yeah. It's like it's also like kind of a little victory. Like we won. Yeah, our clothes are clean.
Yeah.
Everything is like prepared.
Oh, my friends are talking about the Coca-Cola. So smak svobody. Pizdec Pepsi, smak svobody, Coca-Cola. Um, my Greek friend there, Arcadian, watches me at the media center, and he actually sent screenshots when we had the mercenaries in there, the African Nepalese and guys, and he goes, I knew it was you always, but you also have that Coca-Cola sitting right next to your laptop. So he's about I have to have my Salo and my Coca-Cola.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, probably there was small mention about Salo. So yeah, I have a little
Salo.
in my refrigerator too. So in the worst case scenario, I will eat just Salo.
We have guys that go to train in America. My friend Mikola Melnik, who's the 47th Brigade commander, Mikola says, when the guys are over the training, you know what they demanded? What? Lots of salo. They had like everything else. Like we have something we need that we don't have right now. What salo? And the American goes, "What's salo? Is that the fat stuff?" He goes, "Shh, hey." It was so like I get it, but it was funny the way he tells that story that they feel when they're abroad training, they're like, "Hey, you're kind of missing something here, man. You got Burger King? Yeah, fine, but you got McDonald's? Yeah, fine, but where's the salo?"
Yeah, we're like, yeah. I think we did a good excursion into our daily life.
Live here. And our friends, hey, I'm asking them also text form. What do y'all think? This is really some of what they've been wanting to hear. They want to know, and they ask me this all the time when we would do Twitter Spaces where it's all verbal like radio. They would ask, can you tell us more about what people live like there, not just the headline stuff? What are some things that go on in Kyiv and Ukraine? And they care. They genuinely care.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing. It's really sometimes, okay, I don't want to go into politics or something because like decided to create this more lived space, but sometimes taking just headlines or news, and what I'm talking about,
mhm.
it might seem like that Ukraine is forgotten, but when I like start digging, discover even on Substack, right? Here from people. Like you can feel this real connection. You can
Hmm.
feel that it's not actually forgotten. Now, as I said, a lot
Yeah.
of people who cares about Ukraine, and so really, thank you all. Thank you for finding time
Yeah.
listen to us and stay update because
And follow Yulia's account. And also, for those of you who can, put the paid subscription on. Put that, even if it's the $5 version, just put the paid subscription on. So while she's focused on telling you the story, she's not also going, how am I going to pay the fucking bills? Um, so
Right.
do that part. And let me ask you this, because I think that this is sort of what, this is about, is that I said I really like the idea of having our own organic network of voices that we kind of take the time and say, "Hey, everyone, you want to know what's happening? Yeah, well, tomorrow night we'll have, or Sunday we'll have, and give them a regular voice that they can stop worrying if CNN's going to cover it, stop worrying if BBC is going to show up. Just make sure they come around and know that we fill this room up. Because one more thing is, I think that they're not even knowing that it happens. Like on Facebook, I have friends that definitely want to know what's happening. And I go post and I've seen 5, 6, 7, 8 posts, zero interaction. And I know my friends, so I know that it's not because of my friends. They are literally not seeing the information on their timelines. So they had to go to my post and go, oh my God, you've had all this stuff you're telling us what's happening, and I didn't see it. Or I have to send it in Messenger, and then they come back and they see it. So really kind of, to all of our friends, this is why I'm trying to do it this way. I will defeat that algorithm by busting ass a different way each time, coming up with another way to do it each time, and say, okay, well, if that didn't work, we're going to do this way. If this doesn't work, we're going to do that way. And there are people right here that are in a Twitter booster group we have. That's the UA News booster group. And so we just defeat the algorithm by taking Sean Penner or Dennis Glushko's account. If you're on Twitter and you have a post up there, same thing, we'll put it in there. We take informed napalm information and we put it in there. And then they go out as soon as it comes in, or as soon as they see it, and they start giving it that likes so that they can try to defeat that algorithm and give it boost, because these people really do care. They just have to be able to see the information to put it out there.
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing approach. Uh because it's
You
really
you know who I
great.
learned? You know who I learned it from? Ukrainians.
Yeah,
If
by the way,
if you hadn't been that way, we'd be dead by now. There would be no Ukraine. That's why I learned it that way.
yeah, from the start of the war, everybody mobilitated on social, like, it's a lot of people still like keep going with posting daily, giving updates. Like, it's amazing job. It's like a citizen journalism, right? In its best shape and form.
Yeah. Well, are you ready to get some rest? Because it's about 11:22.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And I know we could do this. I actually can tell you guys this. I'm working on a wiring system. So we're using our phones in this case, but I also have what's called Open Broadcasting Service, or Open Broadcasting Software, OBS. And this is how I did my culture show last week, where I basically used my PC and I had a regular camera into the PC. But I'm trying to work out the switchboard part where we can take phone calls. Now, one of the people in this space already tested with me. I can take like a Signal call or a WhatsApp call, and we can all hear it, but they couldn't hear the video back. Like anything I have in audio and video from the PC, it doesn't go back to that program. So I went, okay, then let me outsmart that. How am I going to do that? So that's what I'm doing right now. Is like, I'm going to outsmart that. And then the next time what we could do is say, hey, instead of you just texting folks, they can come up and say, hey, okay, Yulia, so coming up next, we have Dan will join us now, then Lisa. So, hey, what's your question tonight? Oh, yeah. And they'll ask their question, and we'll be able to
Oh,
dynamically talk to them. And that will be done on this platform one way or the other, because that's how we do things.
great
Я,
idea.
я планую це інші і важливі ідеї. I have to keep thinking of ways in which we use these tools. And Substack is actually really cool because when we're done, everything we just said is available as much to your account as it is mine. It's not my video with you. It's our co-creation here that both people can take and use the material however we wish. And we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
No
so
one stops us.
to
We are
everyone here that's joined
unstoppable.
us, you want to tell them some final thoughts before we go?
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your messages. Really, sometimes we like touch this points that like everything seems lost, but then we know that there's a lot of people who cares about us. So please keep please keep doing, and we will do our best in delivering all the information, but not just cold information, but really lived real stories of real people. So thank you.
Дуже
Thank you, Chris,
дякуємо.
for inviting
Oh,
me.
of course. And as we would say, дуже дякуємо за підтримки і допомогу. Thank you for your support and your help and your aid. And we will see you soon. And, you know, Yulia, my friends, they have this down. They know how my programs always end. We say, Slava Ukraini
Героям слава.
і пиздець Російській Федерації.